All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us on our next greatest franchise webinar here. And I'm so thrilled to have our guest back, John Francis, also known as Johnny Franchise. If you've been around franchising for a little bit, you see him. He seems to be all over the place. Every conference and show, you're probably, chances are you're going to run into him there. And John is amazing. Last time, one of the things we had him on talking about was talking about advisory boards and the importance of advisory boards. And he can help you get that set up for your franchise system or any organization. And now, what we want to have, why we asked John to come back, is to talk a little bit about this concept of a mastermind group. And there are a whole bunch of these organizations out there, but very few, if any, actually specialize in the day-to-day challenges that a franchisor goes through. And so the purpose of today is to give you an overview of what some of this will look like for a franchisor and a mastermind group, the value, importance, and why it might even make sense. So with that, John, I'd love to turn things over to you.
Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here again. Great to see you, and appreciate the chance to share more about what we're doing with the Zor Forum is the brand, and kind of explain what it is, how it works, and the value that's available or provided to those members. Zor Forum is, I guess, today's term is a mastermind group, right? When I was involved in a thing called a peer group, which I think is the same thing, maybe old terminology, but I was in a peer group for business owners for like 25 years, for a long time, when I was a young executive and growing up in my family's franchise system. And then on after we sold our business and I went on and did a few more of my own deals, the group helped me really understand things that I didn't see and recognize in myself, shortcomings or blind spots, and then really, I would say, some gentle accountability, which, most entrepreneurs really don't want to be held accountable. That's why they're entrepreneurs. But the peer group for me really did help in a lot of ways. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the work I was doing and the decisions and choices I was making. But I also learned a lot from the exposure to the other members and their issues and the other suggestions from the other members. It might not have anything to do with me personally, but I learned from the exposure and the experience of all the different issues that the other members were going through and sharing in the group and the conversations that we had. So I'm very familiar with this format. And like you said, and it's true, there are several different mastermind groups or roundtable groups or peer groups for business owners. Lots of stuff out there. YPO does this. YO does this. There's a franchise out there called the Alternative Board, run by a friend of mine out of Colorado, and they do a nice job. It's actually a franchise system that does this for business owners, setting up these groups and mastermind groups. But the group I'm involved with is called Zor Forum, and all the members are franchisors. It's exclusively for franchisors. It's usually the founder, the C-level people, the presidents, the executives who are making decisions for that brand. Those are the members that we have. It's actually a franchise company, and I'm the first franchisee of this brand. And it's kind of fun to be part of it on such an early stage. And we're still putting things together and improving the process and the systems and technologies. But the work that's being done is real work, and it's real valuable for the members. They get to benefit from participation, and I think there's a lot of residual value that comes from the relationships that are built among the members during those meetings. Well, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So one of the things that I was hoping you could talk a little bit about without giving away any specific details. Certainly there's a confidentiality that occurs within these within the group itself. But I'd love for the folks who are tuning in, many of which are either emerging or growing franchise brands. I recognize some of the folks that are on our list here. Would you talk a little bit about how some of the challenges or some of the maybe recent talking points or the variety of things that you'll talk about within the group?
Well, these groups get into a lot of interesting stuff. So in more of a roundtable format, I think, and I'm a big fan of the round tables. There are lots of people doing these, and they happen at the IFA conference. I've facilitated roundtables many times. They're usually topic based, but the roundtable format, I think, is sort of shallow but broad, right? You may cover a lot of issues and a lot of sort of best practices. Who do you use for this, or how would you handle this, or what I would say ordinary, straightforward kind of solutions or information that people want to learn from each other. In the mastermind format, we go a little more narrow and a lot deeper. So we will get into real issues that are affecting these brands and these individuals in doing their job. So my opportunity as a moderator, facilitator, is to really ask the questions in such a way that we get to the core issue. We kind of peel back the onion, if you will, or we dig a little deeper and we do a deep dive into that issue or that person's situation. What shows up as a symptom may be only that, and what we're really trying to solve is the underlying problem. So we do the I would say the easy stuff that happens naturally because we're together and we're sharing ideas. But my goal really is to drill deep into the more meaningful, more valuable problems that, what keeps you up at night. It's not a matter of what vendor do I use for social media today. It's more like, I don't trust my CFO and I've got real issues there, right? Now that's a problem you're not going to solve at a roundtable, right? You're going to solve that in a mastermind format. Some of the other issues, how do you deal with non-compliant franchisees? I mean, that happens all the time, right? It's part of the fun of franchising, but there's a lot more to it in terms of not only how do you respond to it, but how do you prevent that, right? So we get ahead of some of these issues and share experience, my own experience, and then I pull that experience from the other members to really not just solve a problem, but help other people avoid the problem in the first place, and add structural components or different approaches to your business, and just things that can really accelerate the growth and help you avoid the mistakes that are just common and sometimes seem to be so obvious from someone on the outside. When you're inside working on your business or in your business all the time, it's really hard to get any objective, qualified outside point of view. So these are franchisors, and I handpick the members. It's my job to put the right people in those groups and make sure they're willing to give and take from the group and participate in a meaningful way. So we are solving problems rather than just best practices. We're solving specific problems specific to that brand or that individual. So it's we get into development, a lot of development. I want to sell franchises. Of course, everybody does. That's such a broad issue, but I'm working with a broker network, or this is the performance issue I'm having with my sales department, or my recruiter, or my lead generation used to work but doesn't work today. Well, not everything works for every brand at the same time, right? There are a lot of variables and variations that need to be considered. And so it's much deeper than just throwing out names or talking about, well, this worked for me and that worked, this didn't work. We go into the why and the what and the how and the when and who and where, and make that really specific to their unique circumstances. So it's much more in depth. It's much more intense. And I would say my ability as a moderator or facilitator is to ask the questions that may make people just a little bit uncomfortable in a constructive way so that they're willing to make some changes or see things differently, and then extract the conversation out of the other members in the group. So it's not just me doing all the talking, it's the entire group engaging to help one another. And like I said, sometimes somebody else's issue and someone else's solution, their exchange is really valuable because you learn from the exposure of those ideas and those experiences. Even if it has nothing to do with you today, it might be something that you reflect on it and recognize that opportunity 6 months from now. Like, oh, I've seen this before. I know something about this. I saw it here and I saw it there. And here were 3 different variables that they talked about. Now I'm better prepared to deal with it in my own brand or avoid it if it's a problem, right? So we're helping people grow smart and grow I would say less stress, less drama, and less isolation, right? When things go wrong, you know, you don't necessarily want to talk to all your employees or your franchisees or your spouse or your neighbor or your friend from school. You know, you want to talk to someone who can relate to what you're dealing with, who probably has relevant experience or certainly can ask the right questions to help you see what you didn't see and approach things in a more constructive, more effective way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that a mastermind offers, certainly helping you not feel alone with your problems. I think that's one of my favorite outcomes is you described so very well there, Johnny, that you have there's the problems you're facing are not all that unique. Others are struggling with probably very similar issues. So it's always nice to see that you're not alone. One of the things that I've always found interesting when I've participated in groups and what I love about Zora Forum and what you're doing and that it's franchisor specific is that it provides that opportunity for you to not only get your problem solved, but to also challenge you to help solve or provide solutions or think critically about other challenges, because sometimes when it's not you in that seat, it allows you to think a little more creatively and problem solving that you could maybe apply back to your business at some other point. So I'd love for you just to maybe share or talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, we see things, you know, people, because it's strictly confidential and private, right? We are very careful about that. We allow people to talk about things that they probably don't have anywhere else they can feel comfortable talking about these things. And we get into some real interesting situations. And then, like I said, through a process of effective questioning and moderating, we get beyond the initial observation and put it into appropriate context. Why do you think that is that way? You know, how did you get here? Not only how can we get you out of here, but how did we get you? How do you avoid getting in here ever again? So it's the type of opportunity where the creativity comes because the environment is safe and it's open and it's moderated. It's not just random chaos, right? There's structure and there's timelines and it's facilitated. The other thing that I think is important is, you know, after a while, people get familiar with each other. Obviously, they get comfortable and they know their business and they know the other players or the other people in their brands. And so when a problem comes up between meetings, I mean, I'm available to my members as much as possible, and they're available to each other as members. And we use a Slack network that is an easy communication channel. So if someone's got a hot topic, something hot happens this morning, and you need an answer today, you've got a resource to tap into. And those are people who are already familiar with you, already familiar with your business. They may have already gotten deeply involved in issues around, you know, whatever you bring to the meeting. So it creates a real environment of and advisors, right? It's like having a board without having a board. You have the people who you can trust and relate to, and they're already familiar. So when it happens from time to time, people will hop up and say, man, this just happened. What do you think I should do? And we'll either jump on a quick call or I can just message them quickly and ask a few questions and offer a few ideas and then bring in other members that I think might be able to help deal with whatever that specific issue is. So it's routine. We meet monthly. We meet for 3 hours. Today, it's a 3-hour meeting, online, virtual. So it's a commitment. But then there's opportunity in between meetings as things pop up or problems come. And then we have a process for our members to really do a deep dive and prepare materials to share in advance of the meeting. So, you know, I don't want to come to the meeting and say, okay, how's it going today? You know, that's fine, but that's not best. Best is, okay, you told me how it's going and you told me this is the issue. Let's dive into this specific issue. And I start drilling into that problem that they've prepared for us. So we try to be very effective with the time and efficient as well, but effective first. So my goal is that the members are coming out of there with real solutions to real problems. You know, they make the decisions. We never tell someone what to do. A guy may bring an issue and we drill into that and find 5 different ways to solve that problem. it's their opportunity to figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. But they're going to know that next month we want an update between the meeting. I don't need to wait for the meeting. I'll say, how'd it go? You were dealing with such and such and so, and which way did you choose to deal with that? A lot of CEOs or high-level folks aren't really held accountable because there's not enough structure around them. So this creates that structure and accountability in a constructive way with really zero risk. So it's a powerful combination. And over time, really those relationships develop outside of the group. I'm still friends with my old group from years ago. A lot of those guys are really friends of mine because they helped me through stuff for years and years. And you get real close to those people. Not everyone, but some of them. And I think that's a real advantage. And we're seeing the same thing happen in the Zor Forum groups.
Yeah. And John, would you share just a quick outline maybe of what the agenda is, kind of this, how it flows for someone who's maybe listening and thinking, okay, 3 hours, that's, could be maybe a lot of time for them, maybe not a lot of time, but you're dedicating, you're committing to that so that they know what are some of the topic points, high level, that you'll start walking through.
Sure. Well, what we've added now is the members asked for, and we're providing an outside expert. We have topics and they're in advance, and so they know what the topics are going to be. So we start the meeting with an outside expert focused on a particular topic for maybe 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And so we bring in outside real talent who can share, and they're not there to sell, they're there to provide value, right? And it's a chance for these members to learn probably new things in a particular area where they've told me they want focus. So we start with that. And then it's really a matter of taking turns going through member by member the issues that they brought, or the issues that they brought last time and we're following up on, or the issues that they've shared with me that they've said, okay, bring it to the group. So the process is really identifying the issue and then really expanding that and making sure we've defined it. And then it's a deep dive problem solving discussion. So we go deep and they have to kind of just listen. And it's gets sometimes a little uncomfortable, but that's why we're there, right? That's where we grow. And then we tie it off. I kind of bring it back to say, well, okay, I think we've solved, or we've given you enough variables or different things to consider on this issue. We expect you to bring it back and tell us how it goes before the next meeting. Then we'll move on to the next. So that exercise can take 15 minutes. If it's relatively straightforward and quick, and it kind of depends on how many people are attending. Those deep dives can take more than 30 minutes if appropriate. And we keep drilling and we keep finding more. We may break one issue into 3 or 4 different items that really need to be dealt with. Because it's not always as obvious as it seems in the beginning. But we take time, and I manage the clock the best I can to make sure that everybody gets to engage in those deep dives and those problem solving sessions. And then we have enough time to get through everybody has a chance to deal with the issues they bring. So my groups today have, I think, about 5 members in 2 groups. So average 4 or 5 people are there, plus me. So we've got plenty of time. We take the time. And as the groups get larger, I think my number is probably 7 or 8 members in a group. It's about as big as I think they'd want to be. We may actually extend that time if we need to. If we find we're running out of time or people don't feel like they had enough time, we could start a little earlier or go a little longer. But for now, it's a 3-hour time commitment once a month, and it seems to be adequate. And I guess, what I can say is I facilitate on purpose. I've been trained to do it. I've done it for years. It's natural for me. It's comfortable for me to make sure we stay focused. And if we go off on tangents, I might capture that and set it down and say, no, let's come back and finish this conversation. So it's not random chaos. There's quite a bit of structure. And then, like I said, between meetings, there's an exercise we ask the members to go through to do a deep dive and reflect on what's really important, and then define the issue so we can share that in advance of the meeting. And so when we hit the meeting, we're ready to go into those issues. It's a matter of discipline and facilitation and then really, I would say, extracting the best ideas and making it real clear what we cover.
Great. Great. Well, John, for someone who might be interested in just gathering some information, connecting with you on it, how can they do that?
Sure. Well, my nickname you mentioned is Johnny Franchise. So that's my website, johnnyfranchise.com. The brand is called Zor Forum, ZORFOURM, zorforum.com. Not hard to find. And there's a process and evaluation and application. We're, like I said, very careful about who goes into which group and make sure it's a good fit and that they're well prepared and know what's expected. And the strict confidentiality, we talk about that up front. So I'm not hard to find. John Francis, Johnny Franchise, Zor Forum. I'm out there. I got a great social media person that makes me look really good and busy on social. And like you said, I'll be at the IFA conference. I'll be at the multi-unit conference. I get to some, not everything, but a fair number of events, and I'm pretty easy to find and reach. And people call, you can text, you can email, whatever's comfortable. I'm pretty responsive, at least while I'm not on vacation with my kids, right? If I'm on vacation, that's another story, but you'll get some kind of response, that's for sure.
Yeah, great. Well, I'd love to open this up for some of our guests that are on the line with us. If anyone has a question, you can always type it into our chat or in the Q&A, or just go ahead. We tend to have small groups on our presentations here, so just hit the raise hand feature, and I can go ahead and unmute you, so you can just go ahead and ask your question directly. See.
Looks like you got one.
Oh, here we go. All right, hold on. Okay. All right, Michelle, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, Tom.
Hey.
Hi, Johnny. Thanks for having this webinar.
Sure.
I'm curious, are there any fees or anything that go with this group? It sounds like a great group and something I've been wondering if it even exists. So I'm happy to hear this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it of course it's. I mean, I do plenty of volunteer work and mentoring and stuff, but this is a pay to play, I guess, is what they call it. The membership fees are $495 a month, and it's like a recurring subscription. So there's no initial fee, there's no annual commitment. It's there's an agreement. There's an automatic payment thing. It's like a credit card we use, and but you can. I say to the members, if you don't like it, it doesn't fit anymore, you can stop anytime. And if I don't like it and I don't think you fit anymore, we're going to stop anytime. So it's a pay as you go, month to month kind of a commitment. But there is an expectation of professionalism, privacy, and really full engagement. So I have had members that have tried it, and then we agreed it wasn't a fit. It was usually it's too early. They're like, oh, I just got my FDD. I'm just trying to stand up as a franchise. In my world, that's a little too early for this because you don't have enough experience or enough practical situations where we can really add a lot of value. People just want to sell franchising. That's great, but that's really not what we're all about. We're trying to solve the problems of developing and emerging and actually mature franchisors. I've got some brands in there that are quite mature. They're not all startup early stage. The diversity of the membership makes it much more interesting. But that there is a fee, but it's pretty, I think, very affordable, frankly, for what the value that's provided.
Yeah, no, it sounds fine. And you led right into what was going to be my secondary question is, what is your sweet spot of entry? And it sounds like for me, because I have not even started my sales process yet, I'm just finishing up the process with Tom and his group, it would be too early for me, but still nice to know that this is out there once I get, on my feet going. And, do you know of something, a group like this for those that are just getting started?
I'm not aware of anything that's specifically for startup. I can tell you, I'm thinking about the members. I've got one gentleman in my Tuesday group, second Tuesday, right? And he's in California and he's just sold his first franchise, right? The difference is he's got 7 years of experience in his industry. So he really knows his business and he's got a great base to build from. So he's in and I allow him in and he's actually in another mastermind group for general business. So he's very familiar with the expectations and the engagement. So I'm not to say that I wouldn't take you. I wouldn't make any absolutes like that. I would say just typically stand-up franchisors, they're not ready for this. But in this gentleman's case, he is ready and he's getting great value. We blueprinted his discovery day process and I coached him on script, like say this, don't say that, right? And then other members chimed in on what they do with their discovery days. And so he's qualified and he participates and adds a lot of value. So you can certainly consider it, and we would have that conversation so I could really understand if I think it's a fit, great. And we always allow people to try it once for free. Like I want you to get a sense of it, and you agree to confidentiality, we'll bring you in and introduce you and let you try it on and have a free session. That's relatively easy. Although I limit the number of guests because it just it can take away from the real value from members who are expecting more engagement. So I would say consider it, but it really is. I mean, ideally, the franchisors that can't sleep at night because something's gone wrong, that's a great customer for me because those people have real issues, real struggles, real risk, real impact, and real motivation to find a real solution, not just another idea, not just another new strategy, not just another suggestion. We go deep and solve those problems. That's the goal. So it's the nature of it. I don't know if that helps you, Michelle. But
yeah, no, it certainly does. I mean, I've got 16 years of experience with my current business. And I started it on my own. So when you talk about those sleepless nights, I remember all too well those sleepless nights, wondering if I'm making payroll, wondering if employees are showing up, and the list goes on and on. So I understand that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's probably worth us having a conversation, and I will reach out to you.
Thank you.
And
I
see.
agree.
And if you agree that it's a fit, I'd certainly be interested in trying it and see. And if we think it should wait a little bit, that's fine too. I trust your judgment.
Well, I appreciate that. And like I said, I've had members come and try it on and then we talk afterwards and like, here's my feedback, whatever it might be. And then others, I've had members, I've been doing it just over a year. I don't know how long it's been, just over a year, I guess, since it started. So I've had people who I said, this isn't for you. Why don't we check back in 6 months, see how you're doing? And I circle back and I get a hold of them again and say, hey, how's it going now? Maybe now is a better time. And then they say, yeah, you know what? Now is a better time. I know what I need help with now. It's not just sell more franchises, right? They're really dealing with, real issues. So it's if it's not now, it might be later. And, people come and go, I guess, whenever it makes, but we want members to stick with it. I think the average in a mastermind group, my experience is about 3.5 years is about the average length that people stay. Like I stayed in my group for 25 years, you can believe it or not, but I went through 5 businesses over that 25 years. So I was like a different person, not exactly, but I was bringing different issues because I had different businesses coming and going. And I think that's why it made sense for me to stay so long.
Sure. No, that makes total sense. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Sure, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. And John and Michelle, I definitely think, knowing what I know of each of you, I definitely think a conversation is well worth both of your time. I think there could be a really good fit for sure.
Great. Thank you.
Right.
Great. Thank you. Any other thoughts or questions here from anyone else on the session here?
I've got another point of value, I guess I'll add
Yeah,
to the,
please.
to the,
Yeah.
to the conversation is part of the fun of Zor Forum as we get going and add more groups. I'm just one of several folks that are running groups, and we have opportunity to connect the groups. So it's a network of networks, if you will. And when you become a member of the Zor Forum, if you're one of my members, that's great, but you get also access and connectivity to the other members in other groups. So it becomes this resource, I'll say, of expertise. And if I may not have every answer, certainly I've never claimed to be a know-it-all. I'm a share-it-all, but I'm not a know-it-all. But if you bring, someone says to me, I'm looking for this specific issue or this specific situation, who do you know? And I'll say, well, I don't know, but let me put it out there. And we put it out through our communication network. And you'd be surprised at the talent and the range of experiences out there. Even if they're not in your group, they're in the Zor Forum community. And so you have access across the groups. And that really is an added value that we're starting to see more and more of that as these groups become more, they're more engaged and more committed, and people really understand how to take advantage of that networking within the Zor Forum network.
Mm-hmm. Great. Great. Well, John, this has been absolutely fantastic. I will make sure that we get this published, by the way. So if you listened in, want to listen to part of this again, connect with John directly. We'll have this published up on our YouTube channel, on our blog, and a variety of other resources where we make it convenient for people to listen to. Or maybe you just wanted to share this with someone on your team so that they can see what's going on as well. John, as always, you're just a fantastic guest, full of knowledge and information. And I'm so grateful for your time and being here today.
Well, thank you, Tom. That's very generous of you. I appreciate that. I'll be out at the IFA here in just a few weeks. We'll be going crazy out there, having a blast. It's so much fun. And this year it's in Vegas and it's well past COVID. So I expect to see a lot of folks out there. And I'll be looking forward to that. And I'm sure I'll see you out there.
Yeah, I'll be there, and I'm looking forward to running into you. And we'll see you here in a couple weeks. But well, thanks again. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you all to all of our guests for tuning in today, and we look forward to having you all back on our next session here next week.
Very good. Thank you.